All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to challenge a pretty common assumption. We often think that professional engineering is just about technical brilliance, right? The complex math, the cutting-edge physics, the flawless code. But today we're unpacking the deep, essential professional duties that actually form the foundation of all those technical skills. These are the hidden moral frameworks that keep our society safe, functional, and just.
I mean, think about your day so far. The bridge you drove on, the app you use to check your bank balance, even the air you're breathing near industrial zones, they are all governed by invisible ethical frameworks. But what happens when those frameworks fail? Seriously, what happens when a brilliant engineer decides to prioritize speed over safety, or a software developer just ignores a massive security flaw to meet a deadline?
So, here is the roadmap for today to understand this ripple effect of responsibility. We'll be looking at 1. Safety, the foremost duty. 2. Navigating trust and conflicts. 3. Rights and intellectual property. 4. Protecting our shared environment. And finally, 5. Cyber ethics and social duty. Let's jump right in.
Section 1. Safety, the foremost duty.
We're starting right at the epicenter of engineering ethics, and that's human safety. Because in fields like engineering, medicine, and law, the absolute #1 obligation is protecting human life over profit, convenience, or, arbitrary deadlines. Now, you can't always eliminate risk completely, that's just reality, but it absolutely must be systematically managed. This takes incredible foresight. You have to identify potential hazards, assess their real-world impact, and implement strict measures to minimize harm. And ethical responsibility here means total transparency. It's about balancing those risks against the benefits and communicating them honestly to everyone involved.
Because, let's be honest, when professionals hide dangers for a quick buck, or when warnings are just straight up ignored, the results are literally catastrophic. History gives us some pretty devastating reminders of this. Take the Bhopal gas tragedy, where a toxic leak from a chemical plant resulted in thousands of deaths, or the 1986 Challenger space shuttle disaster. That led to the tragic loss of 7 astronauts, all because engineers' urgent warnings about faulty O-rings in cold weather were just dismissed by management to hit a launch schedule. Neglecting safety is never just a technical oops. It is a profound moral failure.
Section 2. Navigating trust and conflicts. Okay, so once physical safety is locked down, we've got to look at professional relationships. And here, trust is the ultimate currency. Confidentiality is a massive cornerstone of that trust. Whether you're safeguarding national defense secrets, patient records, or user data, it's totally essential. But, and this is a big but, it's not absolute. What if an engineer discovers their employer is hiding a deadly safety defect? Well, in those rare, hypercritical moments, maintaining confidentiality actually endangers lives. Ethical responsibility sometimes demands the immense courage of whistleblowing. You have to disclose that hidden information to protect the public. Now, another massive threat to that trust: conflicts of interest. This creates some seriously dangerous divided loyalties. Imagine a civil engineer who owns shares in a specific construction company, and they're tempted to award municipal contracts to that exact company, even if it's not the best deal for the public. Situations like this completely compromise impartiality. To navigate this, professionals have to transparently disclose any potential conflicts right away, ensuring their decisions are driven by fairness, not just self-interest.
What's really fascinating to see here is how all these dimensions are totally interconnected. It's like a giant puzzle. If you slack on risk management, you compromise safety. If you cave to a conflict of interest, you might breach confidentiality or ignore safety protocols just to make a quick buck. Together, all these elements form a holistic framework. They ensure a professional's technical expertise is always firmly anchored to their moral responsibility.
Section 3. Rights and intellectual property. You see, ethical engineering isn't just about the final product sitting on a shelf. It's about the process, and more importantly, the people building it. We have to balance organizational goals with justice, fairness, and basic human dignity. And that starts with the fundamental truth that employees aren't just, resources to be optimized. They are human beings entitled to rights. In high-risk industries, safe working conditions are non-negotiable. But it goes beyond physical safety. It includes fair wages to prevent exploitation, non-discrimination so everyone can thrive regardless of their background, and protecting employee privacy in our crazy, data-driven world. And hey, on the flip side of physical labor, we've also got to protect the creations of the human mind. Intellectual property rights, or IPR, are absolutely essential to encourage creativity and fairness in the industry. We're talking patents for brilliant new inventions, copyrights for creative works and software code, and trademarks for brand identity.
An ethical professional respects these boundaries, making sure there's zero piracy, theft, or unauthorized use of a competitor's designs. But of course, intellectual property raises its own complex ethical dilemmas. It is a really delicate balancing act. While we absolutely need to protect creators to encourage innovation, what happens when a patent restricts access to essential resources? Think about patents on life-saving medicines, right? Professionals and corporations have to find a way to balance the right to profit with the undeniable need to ensure social welfare and public health.
Section 4. Protecting our shared environment.
Expanding our scope to a global scale now. The things we build don't just exist in a vacuum. They live within delicate ecological systems. Environmental ethics brings us to a principle known as intergenerational justice. This is the profound moral obligation to ensure that future generations actually inherit a livable planet. So, this means civil engineers must design eco-friendly buildings that slash energy consumption. It means chemical engineers are duty-bound to develop processes that minimize emissions and waste. Sustainability is no longer just a nice-to-have feature. It is a fundamental moral duty if we want to prevent ecological collapse.
Section 5. Cyberethics and social duty.
Now we're at the modern frontier. In the digital age, cyberethics is honestly just as critical as physical safety. Think about it. Software developers are literally building the virtual world we spend half our lives in. This means they have to design AI systems without bias to ensure fairness. They have a duty to build platforms that actively prevent cyberbullying and stop the spread of misinformation. And crucially, they have to avoid mass surveillance without consent. Cyberethics ensures our rapidly advancing tech actually serves humanity rather than exploiting it.
Zooming out to the highest organizational level, all these duties culminate in corporate social responsibility, or CSR. Businesses have obligations way beyond just making a profit for their shareholders. Genuine CSR involves actively reducing carbon footprints, investing in renewable energy, supporting local education, and ensuring fair labor practices globally. It transforms these profit-driven enterprises into vital agents for positive social change.
And in practice, all these massive modern challenges are deeply intertwined. You really can't have one without the others. For example, a modern tech company practices environmental ethics by lowering its data center's energy use, practices cyber ethics by fiercely protecting your user data, and practices CSR by funding local education. These shouldn't just be separate chapters in some dusty policy manual. They have to be integrated into the actual culture and daily decision-making of the organization.
So to wrap up this explainer, I want you to remember this. True professional success for an engineer isn't measured solely by how innovative a design is or how many millions a new piece of software generates. It's measured by this deeply held moral commitment to safeguard human lives, respect fundamental rights, and fulfill our social responsibilities.
So what's the ethical footprint of the technology you rely on today? The next time you download a shiny new app or drive over a massive suspension bridge or hand over your personal data to a service, take a second to ask yourself what ethical principles, or lack thereof, built the world around you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.